Okay, so let's unpack a really common idea, that finding inner peace is just like sitting quietly.
Right. Maybe repeating a mantra or something.
Exactly, and poof, instant tranquility, maybe even enlightenment. You might think that's the fast track.
Yeah, the simple solution.
But, well, our source material today suggests that's maybe a pretty big misunderstanding. It could actually steer you wrong.
Yeah. What's fascinating right away is how this material, it really differentiates between just aiming for a calm mind and, truly developing wisdom.
Exactly. It challenges that whole quick fix idea.
The idea that you get inner peace just through simple repetition or like forcing stillness.
So today we're doing a deep dive into excerpts from Buddho by Ācariya Thoon Khippapañño.
Okay.
And our mission, really, is to get to the heart of what Buddho truly means, how it's applied.
Revealing maybe a more nuanced path.
Yeah, a much more nuanced path to spiritual growth than just saying a word or, chasing a completely blank mind.
And looking at the bigger picture, Ācariya Thoon, his writing really aims to clarify the essence of Buddho and how we genuinely deal with all that mental clutter, the defilements we all have.
He's offering a critical look, isn't he, at some really widely held beliefs about meditation and how wisdom actually happens.
Yeah, and right off the bat, the preface warns us, doesn't it?
It does, against this idea that just chanting Buddho will somehow magically purify us and show us the truth. So for you listening, if you want to grasp knowledge efficiently, maybe avoid getting lost in endless details.
This could be really useful.
Yeah, this deep dive is kind of a shortcut. We're going to try to cut through some common myths and hopefully offer some, well, perhaps surprising insights into what real practice involves.
Okay, so if it's not just about repeating Buddho, what's Ācariya Thoon's main argument then?
Well, he makes a really strong case against that belief, the one that says just repeating Buddho clears your mind of negativity and brings wisdom.
Okay.
He points out that Buddho, when it's used as a parikama word that's in tranquility meditation.
Like a focusing tool.
Exactly. Just a technique. It helps concentrate the mind, helps develop mindfulness, sati sampajañña.
But not the path itself.
Right. It's not in itself a direct highway to enlightenment. He even suggests that using other similar focusing words would pretty much have the same initial effect on concentration.
And what's really insightful is how he uses the Buddha's early experiences when he was Siddhartha Bhikkhu to illustrate this.
Yes. Ācariya Thoon discusses Siddhartha Bhikkhu's time with those two hermit teachers.
Right.
Their main practice was meditation, focused just on achieving deep tranquility, a really calm state.
And he got good at it.
Incredibly good. Reaching very profound states, the Rupa jhana and Arupa dhyana. He experienced this temporary happiness in those calm states.
Felt like maybe the negativity was gone.
For a bit.
Yeah.
It might have felt like those negative emotions, the desires, had vanished.
But the key thing, right, is what happened when he came out of those states.
Exactly. The negative stuff, the cravings, they just came right back. And this, according to Ācariya Thoon, shows that just getting that deep calm through tranquil meditation, well, it didn't lead to lasting freedom. It didn't lead to true wisdom.
So the idea that wisdom just pops up from calming the mind?
He says that's a fundamental misunderstanding. Yeah.
And this leads us to a really important distinction Ācariya Thoon makes about the different types of meditation.
Okay, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. And maybe a bit surprising for some. He outlines 3 types: delusive meditation, moha samadhi, wrong view meditation, miccha samadhi, and right view meditation, samma samadhi.
Okay, 3 distinct types.
Very distinct. He emphasizes they aren't all the same. They differ a lot in how they're practiced and, crucially, where they actually lead you.
And he also points out that some teachers don't even recognize these differences.
Yeah, which is a bit concerning. They fail to see these critical distinctions.
Okay, let's start with the first one, delusive meditation, moha samadhi. What's involved there?
So, this type, it leads to a feeling of happiness, just in that calm state. The problem is, you can get attached to that feeling.
Chasing the feeling.
Exactly. Then you spend your time trying to recapture that pleasant state instead of actually, developing wisdom through thoughtful contemplation. It's like just chasing a nice sensation.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's wrong view meditation, miccha samadhi. That sounds like it could definitely lead you down a wrong path.
It certainly can. Ācariya Thoon explains this comes from wrong beliefs, misconception, which are fueled by our cravings.
Right.
And during meditation, these cravings can actually trick the calm mind. They create what are called elusive images, or nimitta.
Like mirages.
Kind of like mirages, yeah. Your mind projects something that isn't really there. And without wisdom to see through these illusions, people can mistakenly think they're real.
And the text suggests this can have some pretty serious consequences, right?
Absolutely. Getting attached to these illusions, it can lead to strange behavior, distorted thinking, even more serious mental states. It can also result in what's called broken meditation, because wisdom, the essential ingredient, it's just missing.
And this is where those 10 defiled contemplations come in, the vipassanupakalisa.
Exactly. Those are the potential traps.
Can you give us a few examples just to make it clear what those traps look like?
Sure. Okay, take piti, which is rapture or intense joy.
Mm-hmm.
Someone feeling this during calm meditation might just get fixated on that great feeling.
And forget the actual point.
Yeah, forget to contemplate the really fundamental stuff. Impermanence, suffering, non-self, or consider passaddhi, tranquility.
Calmness seems good, though.
Well, calmness can be helpful, but if you become so attached to it that you resist any kind of thinking or questioning because you're afraid of disturbing it,
You stop learning.
right, you hinder the development of wisdom. Ācariya Thoon actually calls this foolish meditation.
Okay. And what about how this can affect our understanding, our convictions?
Well, niya, which is described as delusive intuitive knowledge, that's another key one.
Delusive knowledge.
Yeah. Someone might mistake these intuitive flashes, these ideas that pop up in calm meditation, for genuine insight wisdom.
Oh, I see. That could lead to problems.
Big problems. Misunderstandings of the core teachings, even like false claims of achieving advanced spiritual states. Then there's adhimokkha, or wrong conviction. This is a strong but totally mistaken belief that these delusive insights are genuinely profound.
And that leads to...
It can breed arrogance, conceit, a sense of being special, especially if they think they've developed some kind of supernormal abilities alongside it.
Wow. These examples really drive home how important it is to have discernment, not just accepting every experience in meditation as automatically good or true.
Definitely.
Are there other common pitfalls he points out?
Yeah, there are a few more. Mechavayama, that's wrong effort. It describes putting effort into practices that might look right on the surface.
But they're hollow.
Exactly. They lack true understanding. They aren't genuinely aligned with the righteous path. Then there's upayana, wrong mindfulness.
Wrong mindfulness? How does that work?
It's like being aware of your changing emotions, but without using wisdom to reflect on impermanence, suffering, non-self.
Yeah.
You're just relying on book knowledge, maybe, intellectual understanding.
Not deep reflection.
Right. And upekkha, wrong equanimity. This is ignoring both pleasant and unpleasant feelings, but with the wrong intention, which actually makes it hard to learn and grow from them.
So you're just shutting down, not engaging wisely.
Sort of, yeah. And finally, nikkanti. This is attachment to these defiled contemplations themselves.
Ah, that sounds tricky.
It's really tricky. It's when you mistakenly believe these flawed experiences are actual signs of real progress towards Nibbāna, and you stubbornly resist any correction or guidance.
That's quite a list of potential detours, a really comprehensive look at how meditation can go astray if wisdom isn't guiding it.
It really is.
So how did the Lord Buddha's path to enlightenment, how did that differ from this sole focus on just achieving tranquility that his early teachers taught?
Right. That's the crucial turning point in the whole story. Ācariya Thoon really emphasizes that after realizing tranquil meditation alone just wasn't enough.
He had to find another way.
He did. Siddhartha Bhikkhu discovered the path to enlightenment through contemplative thinking. The Pali word is opanayiko, and by actively engaging his wisdom.
And the famous example of the floating gold server fits in here, doesn't it?
Exactly. He reflected on how this gold server could float upstream against the river's flow. And this led him to understand how the mind, in a similar way, could go against the stream of negative emotions, against cravings and defilements.
So the insight came from reflection.
Yes. Ācariya Thoon stresses that wisdom arose through this inward reflection, this active thinking and questioning, not just from passively sitting there in a calm state.
This really underscores the importance of right view and right contemplation, then, as the foundation.
Absolutely. Right view, sammā-diṭṭhi, and right contemplation, samma-sakkappa. They're presented as the absolute bedrock for developing wisdom, essential for practicing correctly, samma-pāṭi.
Without them.
Without them, Ācariya Thoon says you'll just drift aimlessly, stuck in misguided practices. Seeing things with right view, thinking with right contemplation, it means actively using your wisdom to see things as they truly are.
So where does concentration fit into this picture then? Because the hermit teachers, they focused so much on it.
Yeah, good question. Earnest concentration, sammā-samadhi, is definitely important. But Ācariya Thoon clarifies its role. It's not about achieving that complete, unwavering stillness.
It's different.
It's different in its purpose. It serves as a supportive factor for actually using wisdom to contemplate the teachings, the Dhamma.
Okay.
He mentions concepts like momentary concentration, kanchika samadhi, and proximate concentration, upakara samadhi, as being particularly useful for developing wisdom.
Not the super deep states necessarily.
Right. He actually argues that meditating to that very deep, full calmness can make the active use of wisdom impossible.
Oh, so.
Well, think of it like trying to examine something really closely, but your vision is completely blurred out. The deep calm can sort of obscure the subtle things you need wisdom to see.
Got it. So it's more about this dynamic interplay between a focused mind and active wisdom.
Precisely. It's about mindful concentration, sati samadhi, and mindful wisdom, sati paññā, working together, supporting each other.
How does that work?
Concentration helps wisdom to see clearly, right? And wisdom, in turn, guides the concentration in the right direction. It's this synergy, this teamwork, that leads towards the path, the fruits of practice, and ultimately to Nibbāna, liberation.
Ācariya Thoon also mentions that the Buddha taught different methods, tailoring them to suit different people's inclinations, their dispositions. Can you explain those?
Yes, he distinguishes between what he calls the thinker's disposition, paññā vimutti, and the tranquil mind disposition, citta vimutti.
Okay, thinker versus tranquil.
Right. So those with a thinker's disposition, they can achieve liberation mainly through their sharp wisdom, their intellect. They can meditate to a good level of focused concentration, then actively use their thinking power to contemplate the teachings with wisdom afterwards.
So they need to prepare their thinking.
Yeah, preparing their conceptual understanding beforehand, getting the ideas ready for that wisdom-based contemplation, that's key for them.
And what about those who naturally lean more towards a tranquil mind, the citta vimutti type?
They prefer the calm meditation. That's their strength. But Ācariya Thoon emphasizes they need to be particularly mindful when they come out of that calm state.
Why is that?
They need to consciously direct their concentrated mind towards contemplation with wisdom. Again, having prepared their thinking beforehand, just like the thinker types.
And there's a caution there.
Yes, he cautions against the trap of neglecting wisdom because you're afraid that thinking will disturb your hard-won tranquility.
Clinging to the calm again.
Exactly. And that can lead to stagnation, getting stuck, or even going backwards in your practice.
So this idea of preparing the mind for contemplation, it seems really crucial for both types.
It really does.
But is this wisdom-based contemplation something that only happens during formal meditation sits?
Oh, not at all. Ācariya Thoon really stresses that you can and should cultivate wisdom in your everyday life.
How so?
It's about learning to reflect on impermanence, suffering, and non-self in just your normal daily experiences.
Like what kind of experiences?
Seeing someone get older, witnessing illness, maybe losing something or someone, even just watching leaves change color in autumn.
Taking everyday life as the lesson.
Precisely. The key is to take these observations and bring them inward. Remember that word, opaniko?
Bring it inward.
Yeah, compare these external happenings to your own experience, your own body, your own mind. And this is important without expecting some immediate dramatic result, like instantly getting rid of all negativity.
It's more about building the habit.
Exactly. Building that habit of wise reflection.
So bringing it back to the central theme then, what is the real Buddho, according to Ācariya Thoon, if it's not just the word?
He emphasizes that true enlightenment, that awakening, that sense of inner brightness and cheerfulness, the real Buddho. It arises from this active contemplation that combines mindfulness and wisdom. Paññā.
Grounded in.
Grounded in right understanding, sammā-diṭṭhi, and working harmoniously with all the other aspects of spiritual practice. It's definitely not just about passively reciting a word.
That's a much richer picture.
Yeah.
And the role of studying the Dhamma scriptures, the texts, is also important in this process, right?
Absolutely. Ācariya Thoon explains that the scriptures provide guidance. They're like a map.
But you need to read the map correctly.
Exactly. They need to be understood with rational discernment. You can't just blindly believe them, or your teachers for that matter, without applying your own wisdom.
There's a term for that.
Yes, he refers to it as saranya sampayutta, which means faith that is coupled or connected with wisdom.
Faith plus wisdom.
Right. He uses a helpful analogy. If you feed incorrect data into a computer, you're going to get incorrect results, right?
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out.
Pretty much. Similarly, blindly following teachings without your own wise consideration, your own checking, it can lead you astray.
Okay. This leads us to another important concept he introduces, dassana-ñāṇa, the insight of true seeing. What's the significance of this?
Dassana-ñāṇa is presented as, like, the very foundation for all the insights that come later.
A starting point.
Kind of the essential starting point of clear seeing. It's that moment of true seeing, of real understanding, that comes from rational discernment, the ability to distinguish what's actually true from what's just an illusion or a wrong belief.
And what happens when you have that?
With dassana-ñāṇa, the worry and confusion around spiritual practice, they start to dissolve. And importantly, this is a personal insight. It can't be directly transferred from teacher to student or person to person. You have to see it for yourself.
And it leads to?
It leads to right view
A sammā-diṭṭhi.
and a lack of doubt, a certainty, in the core truths of the teachings. This happens through wise reflection, that term, yunisamanasikara.
Wise reflection again?
Yep. Ācariya Thoon notes that often you need to see something clearly to truly know it, or sometimes you need to know something conceptually before you can truly see it in experience.
Yeah.
But you need both seeing and knowing to avoid making mistakes.
Like finally getting a joke you've heard before.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Suddenly it just clicks. You see it.
Okay. And building on that initial insight, that dassana-ñāṇa, there's magga-maggaña.
Yes. This is the insight into the right path versus the wrong path.
Knowing the way.
Exactly. It arises when that initial clear seeing, dassana-ñāṇa, guides you. It eliminates wrong views and directly leads you on to the noble path.
Often called the middle path.
Right, the Majjhima Patipada, which he says is the single, unique way to purify the mind.
The text also touches briefly on the path being gradual and how vital it is to begin with that right understanding, right view.
It does. Ācariya Thoon mentions the stages of spiritual attainment.
Yeah.
Stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and the arahant, the fully awakened being, and emphasizes that the whole journey really begins with cultivating right view, sammā-diṭṭhi.
He gives an example?
Yes, the example of Añña, who was the first disciple to attain stream entry, the first stage. And how did he do it? By letting go of wrong view.
So the Buddha started there?
Exactly. It highlights how the Buddha consistently emphasized teaching right understanding as the very first, most crucial step.
Finally, the text addresses a question that, well, a lot of people probably wonder about, whether fully awakened beings, arahants, still exist in the world today.
Right. Ācariya Thoon references a Pali phrase, arahanta asunya loko.
Which means?
It essentially means that the world is not empty of arahants, not devoid of them, if and when the teachings are practiced correctly.
So he thinks they might still be around.
While acknowledging they might be rare, he expresses a strong conviction, in their continued existence. And his advice connected to this is really for listeners, for you.
Which is?
To develop your own reasoning abilities, your own rational faculties, rather than just blindly following teachers without critical thought or discernment. Check things out for yourself.
Wise advice in any field, really.
Yeah.
So, okay, to bring this all together then, what would you say is the real key takeaway from this deep dive into Ācariya Thoon's Buddho?
I think the core message is really this. True spiritual growth, realizing that state of Buddho, it doesn't just come from quieting the mind or repeating words. Not the main thing, anyway.
It comes from...
It arises from actively engaging your wisdom, cultivating a correct understanding of reality, seeing things as they are, and constantly reflecting on the true nature of things. Mind and wisdom working together.
Yeah, that's much deeper than just recitation. It leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. How might consciously integrating this mindful wisdom into your daily life?
Beyond just formal meditation sits.
Right. How might doing that fundamentally reshape how you understand and experience the world around you and within yourself?
That's a really powerful question to sit with, isn't it? We really encourage you to maybe revisit these ideas from Buddho, keeping these insights in mind.
Yeah, consider how Ācariya Thoon's perspective might apply to your own search for knowledge, for well-being, whatever area you're exploring.
Absolutely. Ultimately, it really speaks to the immense value of questioning assumptions, our own assumptions too, and always striving for a deeper, a wiser understanding.